not assume and accept. We cannot be held responsible for conditions that are completely beyond our consciousness or beyond our control. But we are responsible for everything that is within the familiar pattern of the known. Now, what are the patterns of the known, for the most part? For the individuals themselves. It's his daily life, it's his conduct, it is his growing up. The rules also involve his education, his schooling, his trade, his art, his profession, or whatever he selects as a livelihood. Going a little further, it comes into his emotional life. He becomes a person with a responsibility for a family. Both men and women, therefore, share this responsibility equally. They know what it means, and if they do not know, it is because they have deliberately ignored it. Because anyone who wishes to know the facts about common occurrences can find them if he wants to. So he comes into the family life, and together, the husband and wife accept the responsibilities of cause and effect as these apply to the family. The neglect of these laws in family relationships can be very serious. For instance, in a family, if one of the parents at least becomes completely selfish, indifferent of the rest of the family, and goes out in search of fame or fortune, then that is creating bad karma for that person, a karma which they must ultimately face. The result of this karma is a detriment to the society, and under those conditions, karma appears as punishment. But it is also to be remembered that this detriment to the others may draw out of them a greater good than they would otherwise have ever known. They may rise above this loss, this failure of one member, and become very strong and brilliant and wonderful people. Therefore, that which is a punishment for one may be in turn an ultimate benefit for someone else. But the fact that the others benefit in no way reduces the karma of the person who neglects. These things fit together in very intricate patterns. Then they go out into life. There are all the things the person wants to be and to do and to have. He builds a career. Now the women are going out and building careers also. And the world of careers is becoming tremendously important. Now, career generally means that the person becomes a better person, better equipped to face life, and better able to achieve the integrities of independence. But for most part, that is not the way it is used. This advancement is not controlled by any ethical or moral motivation. The individual wants greatest liberty to do exactly what he wants to do. And if what he wants to do is against the rules of karma, he's in trouble. And most of the time it is. The individual who is a wastrel, the individual who is extravagant and dissipated, the individual who allows his morality to collapse because of wealth. This is all karma causing. And the karma is going to be far more difficult to overcome than the financial ascension to which the person has made an adjustment. Therefore, we have all the way along interlocking. One man's karma of reward is another man's punishment. But it all works from the integrity center within the person themselves. And this integrity center must not be violated. Now, knowledge, as we know it today, claims all kinds of purposes and motivations. But the essential reason for knowledge, the real basis of our desire to know, is that we must learn to know what is right and wrong for ourselves. We must discover the truth, the life, the pattern which is possible for us to fulfill without danger or pain or suffering. We may have certain limitations, but the limitations in turn may also be liberations, depending on how we look at them. Now, at the end of a certain length of time, the human being begins to drift into what we might term retirement. He's getting to the end of most of the adventures of living. He has gone as far as he can industrially and economically and so forth and so forth. and he is now coming to the time when he must review and regulate his own life. Now, one of the unfortunate aspects of karma, if we wish to call it such, is neurosis. Neurosis is not an individual who is really in great trouble. Neurosis is an individual who has misinterpreted, misunderstood, and misused the advantages of living. He has accepted everything as punishment that was in any way an interference with his personal pleasure. So the law tells us, for one thing, that pleasure is good. We should all have it. But it is not the primary purpose for existence. We are not created primarily simply to have fun. On the other hand, good karma coming can be very amusing, very entertaining, and very refreshing, but it has to be earned. The older person settling down begins to wonder what he was here for in the first place. He does not understand, he does not know, he does not realize. He lives in a world which to him is a mystery, and he has learned very little about life except that he is gradually departing from most of the attitudes that he held firmly in earlier years. So this all adds up to the fact that if the human being was here forever, and if the gift of immortality was generally available, we might have a different attitude toward life. But life is really a day in school. It is part of a long program of education. And the most important thing for each individual in this school is to graduate with honors. Now, when you leave school, you can graduate with honors only if you're a good student. You can also graduate without honors if you're a good athlete and support the finances of the institution. Now, on this basis, we have quite a number of athletes, not necessarily who play games or sports, but who are graduating from school on the basis of something they've done for the school rather than something they've learned from it. So this problem is that when you graduate, you need to graduate with a passing mark or a high mark. But this does not mean that your education is complete. It is complete only when it advances you to the purpose for which you have devoted your educational career. Most of all, it is an education that enables you to estimate yourself, estimate what your abilities are, what your dynamic interests are, and not leave you in the general degree that you graduate without any purpose for education. Education can be a luxury, it can be a fad or a fancy, but it is only useful if the individual uses it to understand the operation of cause and effect in his own life. Therefore, he should have a course on karma in every grade, and he should learn how to graduate from that course cum laude instead of at the bottom of the class. The problem of karma, then, it means that we are here to find out more about what we can do and what we can't do. It is too late to find out what we can't do on our deathbeds. This is not what was intended. We should be learning something every single day. And we should poke into our own subconscious and find out what we can learn immediately that makes today better for us, or will affect us constructively in the comparatively near future. We must therefore begin to study on a life principle that we are expecting things to have a harvest like themselves, that whatever we do will be done to us. Whatever we learn we'll be able to use. What we do not learn or mislearn will be a detriment to us. Now, in the past, when life was largely suburban and persons came from small communities, the opportunities for grand knowledge were few. But today, in the various media available, we can see the whole pattern of world mistakes played out before our eyes. We can see different faults and failings all over the world and the consequences. We can understand terrorism. We can realize the narcotics addiction. We can recognize the causes of all these things because they're played out in front of us. We have never had so much available evidence in various ways. Now, it's possible, quite true, that some of this evidence is wrong. There are definite mistakes in the spreading of news or the estimation of events. But for the most part, the facts themselves stand. And these facts, while they may be misinterpreted, are enough in themselves to remind us of the facts about ourselves, and to remind us that in studying our own facts, we also misinterpret them as generously as possible. We are not willing to accept them any more than nations and civilizations are willing to accept their mistakes. In the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, we have fought more wars than we should ever fight. We have also fought many of these in search for truth, in search for religion, in effort to improve or reform mankind. But we have left the earth with the bodies of the dead scattered about promiscuously. Actually, we should be able to just look back for a few years to see what we ought to be learning. This mysterious and inevitable consequence of action, that we should see how, one by one, the dictators fall, one by one the criminals fall, one by one the selfish fall. All these things are obvious to the thoughtful person, but the individual who has his own treasures seldom understands or accepts this evidence. He is going to be different. Other people may have to pay their debts, but he is going to find some way of getting out of his. This is very common in finance and has led to constant ruin and impoverishment. Actually, the only answer to the whole problem is ethical integrity. There is no way of getting away from karma unless the individual is mentally, emotionally, morally, and physically honest. Honesty is the secret of survival, and it minimizes nearly all the problems of life. The individual who is emotionally and mentally honest has a great deal more chance of being physically healthy, because the disturbances of the emotions are what cause a great deal of sickness. Almost all of the troubles that we have arise from the interference that we create between the levels of our own constitution. The mind betrays the heart betrays the health, and all these things fall into a common ruin. But we have to realize that there are laws of karma that apply to every aspect of existence. There are laws of karma that are peculiarly created for the benefit of bumblebees. There are laws of karma that are necessary for the motion of stars. There are laws of cause and effect controlling everything that exists in the universe and existence itself. Therefore, all things are surviving because they live in an intricate pattern where survival is necessary and where the breaking up of survival is destructive to the entire pattern of life. Bring this down to our little daily living and the problems that we all have to work with. The problem is to start in by carefully estimating the relationship between our actions and integrity, or the relationship between our pressures and common sense. Is the individual, for example, who has found increased or improved financial condition making good use of this additional gain? Is he been faithful unto small things so that he could be made faithful unto larger things? Now, maybe he was grateful for the small things because he couldn't help himself. But when he got greater things, he began to be so happy about it all that he broke every rule in the book. This all becomes part of the problem. The more we have, the more responsible we become for what we do with it. And the proper use of it is a factor in karma, a very definite factor. Ben Franklin summed up the simple words, waste not and want not, and that's cause and effect. Just a simple statement of it.